go ahead and tell us when.
No.
So hi, I'm Charles. I'm here on the road to recovery at the Perce Interpretive Visitor Center here in Wallowa, Oregon, and I'm with Kevin, who's been nice enough to give us a little bit of an explanation of
the historic and up to current day lands of the Nez Perce or the Ninipu. So you take a look at this map, we've got all these different chunks in all the different colors that are numbered, and those are the traditional ancestral homelands. And then when we were talking about the various different treaties that were signed, reduced the size of the lands that were held by the people. So this kind of grayish line here is from the Treaty of 1855. Most of the bands signed that treaty, and it reduced the overall land that was held by the people, as you can see, by a relatively small proportion, proportional to other treaties that were signed around the same time in American history. And then to your point, as time went on, more resources were found in the area that were valuable to settlers. The Treaty of 1863 was proposed, which further reduced to this kind of maroon geometric shape there. And that further reduction, this was, I remember the 1855 treaty, the further reduction to the 1863 treaty, not everyone was on board for. So some bands signed, some bands didn't. That's where the terms Treaty Nez Perce versus non-treaty Nez Perce come from. Joseph of the Wallowa band, which is this number 4 here, was one of the ones that did not sign. Then going to your point about allotments, so once this land had been decreed as a reservation in 1863, I don't remember when allotments happened, but I think it was later in the 1800s, maybe the early 1900s, a source for you to do homework on. Basically the way that allotments work is instead of giving this entire shape to the Nez Perce and saying, hey, as a people, this land is yours, it was an act of kind of Americanizing people. So it was like, instead of like, we the people have this land that we share, it was you as an individual get your however many acres. So you're gonna get, I forget what it is, you'll have to look it up, but you get your 40 or 80 or 120 acres. Which 120 acres out of this area do you want? So then once every member who is enrolled in the tribal nation is given their allotment, then all of the land that remains is open for settlement. And so that like checkerboarding is where that term comes from, is from allotment.
Right.
So there are, we'll have to double check on Nez Perce lands, but I'm pretty sure it's true. But on lots of reservations, you'll see that there's an outline and then a bunch of little pieces in it, and then there's a bunch of private land held by like the descendants of white settlers.
And so since that treaty, has some of the land been given back to the Nez Perce? Have the borders been expanded, or have they decreased, or have they stayed about the same?
So the proper border of the reservation has stayed the same since 1863, since that treaty. However, individuals as well as private landowners have deeded their properties back. So like, for example, here in Wallowa on Main Street, the Methodist Church recently gave their both the church and the property back to the Nez Perce tribe of Idaho.
They sold it.
Oh, they sold it. Oh,
They sold it to them.
Good
Sold
to
it back
know.
then.
Okay, gotcha.
Very good.
Good to know.
All right, well, there you go. So we have a little bit more information. This all came about, I'll give a little bit better lead later. Last night I was doing some research about some of the land that had been, and Chief Joseph in general, in more detail, since we're staying in Enterprise and staying out at Wallowa Lake. So really appreciate you taking your time, and
Absolutely.
thank you very much for your participation.